This is Phil Timon with the philtimon.co.uk podcast, coming to you from what could be fairly described as a slum in the northeast of England. We're in the northeast, aren't we?
I don't think we count as the northeast. I think the northeast is like Liverpool.
Oh, okay. No, that's the north. No,
Newcastle.
yeah,
Sorry, I
Liverpool's
always
in the west.
get those two confused. I think it's like Newcastle.
Anyway, where we are is irrelevant. All I know is I was walking to town with Connie this morning and I saw a police van putting in the door for a
Excellent.
guy and he was getting arrested, which is all very exciting. Oh, no, Connie's at school, isn't she? Lily and Marcus.
Yeah,
With three
the other
children now.
two.
Yeah, fine. Anyway, today we're going to talk about something that's come up recently, and that is guys who seek their wives' permission, or their girlfriend's permission, which is even worse, to get strong in shape and train and implement various things, let alone like pay me for stuff.
Mm.
Because obviously it's a barrier with paying me for stuff. The amount of times I've spoken to men and they've said, I've got to ask, I want to do this, but I've got to ask my wife, or my wife says no, it's too much, or whatever. I mean, no, that's bad, but not necessarily relevant. It's more around actually doing the strong and in shape stuff, training, running, walking, all that stuff, cleaning up diets, and yeah, a lot of guys are really struggling with actually getting their
Being allowed to do
yeah
it.
getting their wives up to. Now you're a woman. Last I
Thanks.
checked,
Yeah.
you're thin and attractive woman.
Thanks.
Um, Tell me what is it that drives this bizarre female psychology? Because I've got my theories, but I want to hear it from the horse's, or rather the Medusa's mouth, should we say?
I think the major fear is being drawn into it. Well, firstly, feeling like guilty or inadequate that us as women aren't doing something, being drawn in or extra work.
So you're saying you it makes you feel inadequate. So as a woman, women feel inadequate because the guy starts getting in shape and maybe a bit jealous and
I'd say it's less about jealousy and more about pressure to do it for themselves. As a woman, I've never been very good at actually hearing people say, like, I used to struggle a lot with you saying, Jess, you need to clean up your diet. Jess, you need to do this.
well, you're making me sound like an abuser.
Well, you did do it, but it's true and it was for my own good.
I'll
So,
tell you why. I'll tell you why. And any man who's struggling with his wife and or girlfriend needs to listen to this. They need to listen to what I'm saying here. Because I fundamentally do not understand this mindset of needing a woman's permission to look after your own health fundamentally, mental and physical. And I'm reminded of when I was at university of trolling Facebook and things. A lot of like early proto memes going around. There was one was girlfriend says, "If you go to the gym one more time, I'm going to leave you." And then the guy goes to the gym. And so it's leg day, so he goes. And it's a bit cringe, isn't it? And apparently, I mean, I don't go on the fitness internet anymore, but I've been told by clients these things are still circulating around. This kind of sentiment. Even when I saw it back then, I was just like, well, yeah, obviously. This is not. It never factored into my decision making, like what any girlfriend before you and obviously you thought about my training. I mean, obviously when we met, it was quite easy because I owned a gym,
mm,
didn't I? So that was the whole context of our relationship, my little PT studio. But even if we didn't do that, make very very clear that this is just what I do. I lift weights anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week. I well, I didn't do cardio back then, did I?
mm-mm.
Let's not lie. But now I do. But I need to do my cardio and I need to do my walks. And if you don't like that, then well, sling your hook. Go find somebody else. Some what's it stained fingered basement dwelling fat guy.
Can I tell you why I think it was different with you?
Why was it different with me, sweetheart?
Because people like to think that partnerships are equal, that couples are equal. And ultimately, I think there is always one person in leading, always one person in charge. And as a girl of the Spice Girls generation, we were taught that men are unsafe as leaders in your family. It is unsafe for the man to be the leader because of, toxic masculinity, or men are incapable or incompetent at being leaders.
Well, most are.
Well, and when a man proves, like you did, c- consistently and gently, that your leadership is safe and good, then I very quickly was like, oh goodness, now I don't have to be in charge. This is great that I could relinquish that responsibility to you and not only let you have your own autonomy, but then release a lot of my autonomy to you around like food and exercise. And it's why when I went back to the gym this week, I said, could you just tell me what to do? Because I trust you, your leadership.
Yeah, I suppose. I see. See, that's an interesting perspective on it because again, mine's a lot more simple than that. I'm very much of I know what I need to be doing with fitness and so on, so we just do it, and I just do it. So remember when I was writing Shift and I wanted to do the um,
Early morning walk.
early morning walk, like really early morning
Yeah.
walks, because one of the things that I recommend in that book is getting up and going out potentially very very early in the morning when you're working shifts, like before a shift, to do daily walk or walk runs or whatever it is you need to do. And that was something I did back when I was in the ambulance service, but that was what, 10, 12 years, 13 years ago, probably, or about 12 years ago at the time of writing anyway. So I was also single and 22, 23 years old. So the context now is very different because obviously I've got a business, a wife, two children at the time, and I didn't want to put something in the book that wasn't practical for anyone who wasn't, an unattached 20-something-year-old man. So I said to you, I said, look, I'm going to need to do these daily walks really, really early in the morning, probably 4:15, 4:30, and that's just what's going to happen. And you push back a little bit. I remember we were. You're looking like you're going to interrupt. Please don't interrupt.
Okay.
We were by Costa in town, and I remember, and you looked anxious about it, and you started to try and push back, and I just said, well, no, this is what's going to happen. I need to do this. If it doesn't work, I can't put it in the book. So this is what's going to happen starting tomorrow. And then I set my alarm at 4. I think your concern was that I was going to abandon you to deal with the children first thing in the morning. That was your concern, which is a fair concern. But I just said, okay, fine, I'll set my alarm even earlier then. So I set my alarm for, I think it was 3:45, or was it? No, it was 4 I set my alarm for, wasn't it? 4 a.m. And then I was out the house by 4:15, and I was back by 5 just before the kids woke up.
Mm-hmm.
And there was there to assist you with them. Yeah, in an ideal world, I would have set the alarm at 5 and gone out then, but that would have meant that you would have been abandoned to deal with Connie and Marcus, which wouldn't be fair. So, so yeah, I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that provided you're not a dick about it, your woman will just follow along with what you're doing on the fitness front. She will. She absolutely will. Clients, they tell me all the time that their woman starts aping their example or asking for them for advice or reading the info products that I send. They're a newsletter subscriber, the wife reads the newsletter, or if they buy one of my books, the wife reads the book, and then starts following the husband in what he's doing. As I say, the key is not being a dick about it. I also have absolutely no time for men who are fitness addicted and who are in the gym 6 days a week for multiple hours. And I know these people exist,
Mm.
and they are
Neglecting their
they're
families.
neglecting their families, they're neglecting their responsibilities. They're just selfish and stupid. And then their woman grows to resent the gym, and then they worry why she's run off with Chad.
Well, and this is where they see it as a hobby. It's something they want to do, like motorbike racing or whatever else other hobbies men have. It's not about their fitness because it's gone past that virtue of being fit and healthy. And as you say, it's an addiction.
Ooh, this is a good point. Everyone who's listening, get a notebook. This is really important. This is really important. You need to write this down. It's not often I share tidbits like this. But you need to present training to your spouse. This also goes for the two women who listen to this. You need to present training to your spouse as something that is as important as going to work and doing household chores. This is a non-negotiable on a level with going to work. It is not something that you do as a hobby. It's something that you may have to go forego hobbies to do, but it is not a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually have to believe that and treat it that way, which means you can't just not go to the gym when you don't really feel like it unless you're sick or injured or whatever. You actually have, in the same way as you wouldn't just not go to work
Just
Well,
didn't
people
bother.
do now, don't they? Because of like sick pay and stuff. But I don't. Well, it's been years since we've had that, isn't it? But you know what I mean. You have to treat it with the same seriousness that you treat work, and not the like not like a hobby or going for the kickabout with the lads in the park or whatever sport women do. Do women play sport?
Netball? I used to play netball for a while, didn't
Oh, you did. They're all very fat, weren't they?
I?
Um.
Because
Anyway, the point is you have to treat it like that, not like a hobby, and you have to present it that way to your spouse. Otherwise, otherwise, she or he will push back very hard against your training, will not start to join you in it, and you'll have this friction, these battles where they don't understand why you won't forego your hobby time the same way. Say a woman like who likes knitting. Women like knitting, so she'd forego her knitting to I don't know go and get the car serviced. So okay, she won't
just
understand
won't do
why
it
you won't forego going to the gym to get the car serviced, and she's going to have to do it
if she sees it
if
as a
if
hobby.
she's a hobby. But if she understands it's a non-negotiable, then she'll treat it that way and she'll do it that way. Look at this. Look at us as an example today, right? I'm on the fence about whether I'm going to lift weights today, Jess,
Hmm.
because I'm very tired. I don't know. I think I've got a bug or something. I may go this afternoon or tomorrow morning. But if I decree that I am going to lift weights this afternoon, then you will go and get Connie from school.
Hmm.
You will just go and get Connie from school. There's no argument there. It's just I'm going to go and lift weights, and you're going to go and get the kid from school because both of those tasks are as important as one another. Whereas if you thought it was kind of a hobby of mine, like my Warhammer or something, you'd obviously get a bit arsy with me if I was like, Jess, will you go and get Connie from school, please, because I want to go to the gym. And that is the key difference, isn't it?
Ultimately, she will take it as seriously as you do.
Yes, and my experiences with men specifically, because I mean, I don't know, there's going to be some selection bias at play with women with me, because the women who are able to cope with my advertising, shall we say,
Hmm.
are very special ladies like you. Not as good as you, obviously, because you are the best woman on the planet,
Oh.
but they're kind of slightly below you in terms of competence and ability and character. So there is some selection bias at play. Much the same way as you go to a warehouse gym. The women in the average woman in a warehouse gym is in better shape than the
Yeah,
average guy in the warehouse gym.
yeah,
But obviously, you go to pure gym and you see all the fat people. So
yeah.
so there is some selection bias at play. But my experience is the most guys that I work like most guys who listen to my stuff, not guys that I work with, guys that I listen to my stuff, and guys generally who lift, they don't take it seriously. Not in the way that we're talking about it today. They absolutely don't. They don't read about training. They don't do something like go on Google and look for these old WordPress and Blogspot blogs that detail the history of training. They don't read articles. They might watch crappy YouTube videos and stuff like that every now and again, but they're not reading. They don't have any books unless they're mine on training, and that is why fundamentally that they remain out of shape. They constantly fall off the wagon because they are having disruptions caused by their spouse who doesn't necessarily believe that they should be training at that particular time, and then obviously it only takes a handful of missed sessions before you just stop going altogether for 3 to 6 months, and they lose all the progress that they made. They go back to the gym weaker, fatter, and it's harder to get back to where they were before. Then they get disrupted again, fall off, and so on and so on and so on. It's a horrible cycle, but there we are.
And we know from experience that and I'm not trying to derail it to talk about diet, but we know that the issues come with you gaining weight when I bring things into the house. So ultimately, you can't underestimate the influence of the one major person that you spend all of your time with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what Jess is talking about there is that she has a habit of going to the shops and buying things like a bag of fudge chunks.
They were on offer.
Yeah, I know, but why would you buy bring those things? You must stop bringing these things into the house because I then eat them.
Yes.
And I can try and not be so. I can try and have self control around it, and we label them as if they're labeled, I don't eat them because then I'd be stealing.
Yeah.
Very strange way my brain works, but we can't we can't be having that. I don't even know. Yeah, you have derailed it. I've completely lost my train of thought. What was I
The
talking about?
point is that the person in your home has a major impact on
Yes.
longevity of training
Yes.
and doing this well for a long old
Yeah,
time.
ultimately, speaking from a male perspective as well, stop asking for permission.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. I'm sorry, it's pathetic. A man asking for permission from his wife and or girlfriend. Well, he wouldn't be and, would it, if he's asking for permission? But his wife or girlfriend to attend to his basic needs that go a long way to mitigating the risk of falling into an early grave, let alone the mental turmoil of looking at yourself in the mirror and just seeing boobs and a gut and just being a less than you know that you are. Asking for permission to do stuff like that is pathetic.
If a woman had to ask permission from a man to attend to her basic needs, we'd call it abuse.
Yeah, we would, but to be fair, men are asking for it on this occasion. There is absolutely no, just do it. And obviously, if you're married to a proper battle axe who, some crazy cat litter smelling feminist who has short hair and very angry, then obviously there's nothing that you can do here.
Should I pick
You
better?
should have picked better. I'm afraid. I've got no advice for you. Not that you would still be listening because you probably forcefully ejected yourself from this podcast a while ago. But everyone else who's like married to a reasonable person or in a relationship with a reasonable person, then yeah, stop asking for permission. Just do it.
Push through and like we do.
I'll not push through. That's really gay.
Well, no, because the woman's probably going to push back. Push through
Yeah,
that. Do
don't
it
listen. Oh,
anyway.
bless you, sweetheart. Don't listen. Just don't listen. Don't do. Don't listen to them.
Mm.
Is it push back? Okay, and
And
just carry on. And if they really kick off about it, just ignore them. Eventually, they'll come around to your point of view, and then when you actually start getting in shape, they'll be like, "Oh wow, you look amazing," and then they'll give you lots of snoo snoo and respect you more, and your life will be better.
and how many weeks was it before I started doing the early morning walks as
It
well?
wasn't even a week. It was 3 days.
Oh,
It was 3 days, and you started getting up and doing the walk because I was doing it. So this is what happens. Obviously I've got you trained very well, Jess, but it does
woof woof.
meow meow more. We have cats, not dogs.
It's true.
But seriously, that's the way it is. Anyway, I'm losing my train of thought, and I'm very tired. I need to go and have a coffee and consider about whether or not I'm going to the gym this afternoon, and then tell you what's happening. So
Great. So
yeah,
until next time.